Welcome back to the English Podcast, everyone. If you are enjoying these deep dives, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes. This is episode 2, and today we are diving into a topic that I know a lot of you find fascinating: polyglots. You know, those people who seem to effortlessly speak multiple languages. We're going to unpack some of the secrets behind their success today.
It's amazing how polyglots can sometimes feel almost mythical, isn't it? Like they possess some secret knowledge the rest of us haven't quite grasped.
Right. So to help demystify the world of polyglots, we took a deep dive into a popular YouTube video by İclal, a polyglot, who speaks 9 languages.
9 languages, that's incredible. I'm eager to hear what insights she shared.
Me too. And don't worry, we'll break down the key takeaways for you and maybe even inspire you to start your own language learning journey. One of the first things that stood out to me was how İclal debunks this idea that polyglots are just superhuman.
That's a common misconception, isn't it? We tend to put polyglots on a pedestal and assume they have some innate ability that the rest of us lack.
Exactly. But İclal makes a really interesting point. Polyglots often focus on learning languages that are related to each other. For example, she speaks Turkish natively, then learned English and French. Mastering French opened the door for her to learn other Romance languages like Italian and Spanish much more easily.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like building upon a foundation. Once you understand the grammar and vocabulary of one language, it becomes easier to pick up others within the same family.
Right, so it's not necessarily about having a magical ability to learn any language under the sun.
Exactly. And İclal is actually very open about the fact that she still faces challenges even after learning so many languages. She specifically mentioned difficulties with German and Russian, which belong to completely different language families.
That's reassuring to hear, actually. It makes the whole polyglot thing feel a lot less intimidating.
I think it's important to remember that even polyglots have to put in the effort and face obstacles along the way.
So what's the first big secret that İclal shares about her language learning journey?
Well, she emphasizes that language learning is a personal journey. What works for one person might not work for another.
Okay, so there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. In fact, İclal actually prefers self-study over formal language classes. She talked about how she studied Arabic in school for years but never reached fluency.
I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. The traditional classroom setting can be quite rigid and doesn't always cater to individual learning styles.
That's a great point, and İclal really highlights the flexibility and freedom of online learning. It allows you to choose resources and methods that suit your needs and preferences.
So instead of feeling confined by a textbook or curriculum, you can create your own language learning adventure online.
Precisely, you're in the driver's seat.
Did İclal mention any specific online resources that she found helpful?
She did. She raves about a language learning platform called LingQ.
Okay, I've heard of that one. What's so special about it?
Well, it's designed to make language learning more engaging and intuitive. It provides a vast library of materials from texts and podcasts to even books, and it has interactive features like built-in dictionaries, so you can easily look up words as you read.
That sounds pretty handy. It takes away some of the frustration of constantly having to switch between different apps or resources.
Right, and you can also create your own custom content on LingQ, which I think is a fantastic feature.
So you can really tailor it to your interests and learning goals.
Exactly. İclal even shared that she used LingQ to learn basic Serbian in just 3 hours.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is, isn't it? It speaks to how effective these kinds of platforms can be when used strategically.
So tools and technology definitely play a role.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's not just about finding the right app or website. What else does İclal emphasize?
She stresses the importance of confidence and perhaps most importantly, a love for language.
It sounds like having the right mindset is just as important as having the right tools.
Absolutely. İclal's perspective on mistakes is really refreshing. Polyglots don't view them as failures. They see them as opportunities for growth.
So instead of getting discouraged, they embrace the messy parts of the learning process. That's something I think we can all learn from.
I agree, and it ties into that passion for language that İclal talks about. Polyglots are driven by a genuine love for exploring different ways of communicating and connecting with the world.
It's not just about memorizing vocabulary lists or grammar rules. It's about immersing yourself in the language and enjoying the journey of discovery.
Exactly, and that's what fuels their learning. Speaking of journeys, İclal also offers a bit of a reality check when it comes to the way polyglots are often portrayed online.
Oh, interesting. What does she say?
She's very honest about the fact that social media often presents a very idealized almost glamorous picture of being a polyglot.
I can see that it's easy to get caught up in the highlight reel and think that polyglots have it all figured out.
Right, but İclal shared an anecdote about meeting other polyglots who actually downplay their abilities.
Really, why do you think they do that?
It's almost like they want to avoid the polyglot label altogether. Maybe it feels too intimidating or sets unrealistic expectations.
That makes sense. I think it's important to remember that everyone's language learning journey is unique. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
I completely agree, and it's crucial to be discerning about what we see online and not compare ourselves to others.
So we've learned that language learning is a personal journey, that related languages can make things easier, and that the right tools and mindset can make a huge difference. What else can we glean from Avikal's experience?
We were just talking about how social media can sometimes create unrealistic expectations when it comes to language learning. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that polyglots have this effortless ability to speak any language perfectly.
It's a good reminder that we are all human, and even those who seem incredibly talented have their own challenges and struggles. Speaking of challenges, we touched on how İclal mentioned having difficulties with German and Russian. Why do you think those languages were so tricky, even for someone who's already mastered so many others?
That's a great question, and I think it highlights an important aspect of language learning, language families. İclal's native language, Turkish, belongs to the Turkic language family. English, French, Italian, and Spanish all belong to the Indo-European family, specifically the Romance branch. They share a lot of similarities in terms of grammar and vocabulary, but German and Russian belong to different branches of the Indo-European family, Germanic and Slavic, respectively, so they present a whole new set of challenges.
So it's like stepping outside of your comfort zone and venturing into uncharted territory.
Precisely. Imagine it like exploring different neighborhoods in a city. You might be familiar with one neighborhood, but venturing into a completely different one can feel disorienting at first.
That's a really helpful analogy. So what specific challenges do German and Russian pose for language learners, especially those who are coming from Romance languages?
Well, for starters, the grammar structures are quite different. German, for example, has a complex system of cases which determines the endings of nouns and adjectives depending on their role in the sentence. And Russian has a similar system along with a very different verb conjugation system. These grammatical features can be really challenging for learners who are accustomed to Romance languages, which have simpler case systems and verb conjugations.
It sounds like it requires a whole different way of thinking about language structure.
Exactly. It's not just about learning new vocabulary. It's about rewiring your brain to understand how language works at a fundamental level.
Did İclal share any strategies for overcoming these challenges?
She did. And this is where İclal's insights get really fascinating. She emphasizes the importance of understanding the underlying mechanics of language. Once you've learned a few languages, you start to see patterns and develop a deeper understanding of how grammar works on a conceptual level.
So even though the specific grammar rules and vocabulary might be different, you have this mental framework that helps you navigate the new language.
Exactly. You're not starting from scratch each time. It's like having a toolbox with different tools that you can apply to different situations.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. It takes some of the pressure off feeling like you have to master every detail of a language before you can start speaking or understanding it.
I think that's a crucial point, and it connects back to İclal's philosophy of embracing mistakes and not striving for perfection.
Right. It's about focusing on the process of learning and enjoying the journey, even when it gets bumpy.
Speaking of embracing mistakes, İclal's story about learning French is a great example of this. She shared that she didn't even focus on verb conjugations for the first 3 years.
Wow, that's surprising. I think a lot of language learners, myself included, would feel a bit intimidated to speak without having perfect grammar.
I understand that feeling, but İclal's approach highlights an important point. Sometimes it's better to just dive in and start communicating, even if it's not perfect.
So instead of getting bogged down in the details, she focused on developing her fluency and getting her message across.
Exactly. And think about it. We learn our native languages by doing just that, by speaking and making mistakes.
That's true. We don't wait until we've memorized every rule in the grammar book before we start talking as children.
And that's why İclal stresses the importance of confidence in language learning. Polyglots don't let the fear of making mistakes hold them back.
They're not afraid to experiment and put themselves out there, even if it means making a few blunders along the way.
Precisely. And they know that those mistakes are actually valuable learning opportunities.
Speaking of confidence, İclal addressed something that I think a lot of polyglots experience, those comments about their accents. She talked about people on TikTok saying her English sounds weird because she speaks so many other languages.
It's so interesting. I think it reflects a misunderstanding of what it means to be a polyglot. Their unique accents are a testament to their diverse linguistic backgrounds, and they should be celebrated, not criticized.
Absolutely. It's like saying someone's art is weird because they use a blend of different styles and techniques.
What a great analogy. It's about embracing the beauty of individuality and recognizing that our accents are part of what makes us unique and interesting.
Right, and it connects back to that point about confidence. Ickle isn't trying to hide her accent or conform to some idealized standard of pronunciation. She owns it.
And I think that's incredibly inspiring. It encourages us to embrace our own voices and accents, regardless of how many languages we speak.
Ickle's story is really highlighting the importance of mindset and attitude in language learning. It's not just about mastering grammar and vocabulary. It's about developing a growth mindset and a willingness to embrace the challenges and imperfections along the way.
I couldn't agree more. It's about celebrating the journey of discovery and recognizing that language learning is an ongoing process, not a destination.
So we've talked about language families, grammar confidence, and even accents. What other insights does Iqbal share about her experience as a polyglot?
Well, she touches on something that might seem obvious but is often overlooked. Motivation. Polyglots are driven by a deep passion for languages.
It's not just a hobby for them. It's a way of life. It's woven into the fabric of who they are.
Exactly. They're fascinated by the diversity of human communication and the different ways we express ourselves and connect with the world.
They're constantly seeking out new adventures and perspectives through language. It's like each new language opens a door to a whole new world of experiences and understanding.
That's such a beautiful way to put it, and that's what fuels their learning. They're not studying just to pass a test or get a job. They're driven by a deep-seated curiosity and a desire to expand their horizons.
So finding that passion, that intrinsic motivation is key. It's what keeps you going when you encounter challenges or feel discouraged.
Oh.
What else did Iqbal have to say about motivation and mindset?
Well, she talked about how polyglots often have a growth mindset. They embrace challenges, see mistakes as opportunities to learn, and constantly strive to improve.
They're not afraid to step outside their comfort zone and experiment with different learning methods and strategies.
Exactly. They're constantly pushing themselves and seeking out new ways to grow their language skills.
It reminds me of Iqbal's experience with LingQ. She talked about how much she enjoys the platform's personalized learning options and the vast library of materials available.
That's a great point. It highlights the importance of finding learning resources and strategies that align with your individual interests and goals.
It's about making language learning an engaging and enjoyable experience rather than a chore.
Precisely. And technology can play a powerful role in that it gives us access to a wealth of resources, from interactive games and language learning apps to authentic content like movies, music, and podcasts.
It's about finding what sparks your interest and using it to fuel your language learning journey. So Iqbal's journey as a polyglot has taught us about the importance of language families, grammar confidence, accents, motivation, and mindset. What final thoughts does she leave us with?
Well, I think one of Iqbal's most powerful messages is that there's no magic formula or shortcut to becoming a polyglot. It's about finding what works for you and pursuing it with passion and dedication.
It's about embracing the journey, the ups and the downs, and celebrating every step along the way.
Beautifully said. And remember, it's never too late to start your own language learning adventure.
That's right. So what does all this mean for you, our listeners? We've debunked some myths, uncovered some secrets, and hopefully sparked some inspiration.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, language learning is not just about acquiring words and grammar. It's about opening up new worlds of understanding and connection.
It's about fostering empathy, broadening our perspectives, and embracing the richness and diversity of human communication.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of polyglots, we want to hear from you. What language learning myths have you encountered? What strategies have worked best for you? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.
And don't forget to subscribe to the English Podcast for more fascinating explorations into the world of language. You can also find us on YouTube, where we have even more videos to help you on your English learning journey.
Until next time, happy learning.